This episode of the Switchpoint podcast is sponsored by Industrial Rail Journal. IRJ was created to shine light on one of the most important but often overlooked sectors of the rail industry, industrial rail operations. From chemical plants and steel mills to grain terminals and transload facilities, thousands of businesses rely on rail infrastructure every single day. Industrial Rail Journal was built to highlight the people, operations, safety, and infrastructure that keep the rail industry moving. Learn more at industrialrailjournal.com.
Hey, y'all. Welcome back to the Switchpoint podcast. I'm Tom, and I'm the producer of the Switchpoint and also your host for today. Today, we have a bit of a special episode for you. We cannot believe our little show about the transload industry has already reached over 10 episodes, double digits. It's crazy. To celebrate this little milestone, we wanted to put together a little compilation of some of the best moments from these 10 episodes. We are so excited to see how the future of this podcast grows, and we hope you enjoyed this very special episode of the Switchpoint podcast. Enjoy.
This is one of the questions I think that we get asked probably the most when we bring up track inspections. We always start with an audit when we go to a customer facility. And that's one of the questions we ask, right? Infrastructure is incredibly important, and it's regulated by the government, by the FRA. And one of the questions we ask, because inevitably at these transload or industrial facilities, these people are leasing that space, or maybe they've had it for a very long time, and that track starts to dilapidate, the gauge starts to go out, or the ties start to dry rot, depending on whatever the environment is, right? The geographic location. That also determines the deterioration of the infrastructure, right? And so when we bring it up and we say, hey, your operations are a little rough, but they're efficient. We can work on some compliance, but we've really noticed the track is pretty messed up. The cars are leaning, sagging, tilting because of the track, or there's vegetation that's just growing everywhere. We're like, hey, what's up with the track inspections? And they'll tell us, oh, yeah, well, we've got, Billy, he's our forklift driver. He comes over and inspects the track. And it's like, well, is he a forklift driver or is he the track inspector? They're like, well, he kind of does that, but he also does tank car unloading for us too. And it's like, okay, wait a minute. You've got one guy doing multiple things. Like, where's his qualification on this? Where's his certification on this? And they say, well, we just have him go out there and check out the tracks. And it's like, okay, well, you've got to be a qualified inspector to go out there and do that, right? And there's a reason for that. There's a reason you have to have your credentialing for that, because think of it this way. When you're getting on your airplane, whatever your airplane is, your jetliner, right? Southwest or JetBlue, whatever it is, right? And there's somebody out there inspecting that plane, or that pilot's walking around. You don't want some Joe Schmo out there who also drives the little tug car doing that, right? You want somebody who's certified, qualified to check out that plane, right? It's the same thing with the tracks. You want somebody out there who knows what they're looking for, who knows how to identify these correct forms, identify these defects. So it's really important for the right people to be out there to inspect these tracks, because ultimately, without proper infrastructure, these rail shippers, they can't land trains into their yard, right? And this falls under Part 213. I know I've written that on your board for homework to review and stuff, right?
I'm still learning on all these. There's
oh my God.
10 different parts on here, and I'm like, what are
so
these?
many parts and subparts and CFR parts, and which we are all authorized and approved to do as a training organization, right? Under our 243 program, which kind of goes hand in hand with our track inspection school. Insert plug here, right? But it's really important. The bottom line is to keep the doors open for that facility, right? Because the company itself can't land these trains, because under that 243 and 209, it says wherever the general system goes, it carries with it the general system, right? So if the carrier is landing on that track, whatever portion of track they're landing on, it's at a minimum got to be inspected, right? And it gives you that frequency of, how many times a week, how many times a month, whatever, and it's usually like class 1 to class 3. So it's segmented different track classes, right? And that's based off of the speed and the tonnage and all that stuff and the weight of the rail. They take all that into consideration. But for our customers, they're typically required once per month, which is very far and few between that people actually do it once a month. Most of them say, oh, well, we do that like quarterly. And it's like, all right, so you can't just pick and choose, right? So anyway, where the carrier goes, it brings with it the general system. And we go in there, and not only do we look and inspect the tracks, right, but we also look at the forms, right? We make sure that they're using the correct forms. Do you have the correct defect codes? Are your inspectors signing off on it? Is the date of the inspection done? Where's the defect located? Do you have a track chart so that a layman can read that and determine where this is at, right? So we help them with more than just their inspections. It's really the compliance side of things. But I think the ultimate goal is we want these operations, these mom and pop operations, the backbone of America. We want to keep their gates open so they can continue to receive commodities and move them via transload, right? Train to truck, truck to train. That's a really important part. It's an integral part of our economics. And it starts, the devil's in the detail. It starts small, getting out there and being a track inspector. I mean, a lot of those guys they don't get the appreciation and the notoriety that they should. They're the ones out there making sure that that's all safe and inspected and ready to go. It's a really important part. So I think that's the biggest part that Axiom can bring to the table and that track inspectors in general bring is not only is it like the federal minimum standard, right? But it also improves efficiency. And I always go back to this old adage, right? It's slow is smooth and smooth is fast kind of thing. And you've got to do it step by step. And it's important to stop operations for a little bit and inspect the track, inspect it under load, right? And inspect it not under load. And then you can resume operations and you're good for the rest of the month, right? Because what's the alternative? You don't inspect it for a period of several months. The trains derail, you've lost product, you've lost cars, somebody got injured, somebody got killed or dismembered. It's like all of that over, most of these facilities have 5 miles or less of track, right? So it doesn't take that long to inspect it. So why not just go ahead and do it? I think that's a really, really important reason. And I love that we're on this topic. So, what are some of the experiences that you have had as far as near misses that you share with them?
Pretty much like riding cars too close to other cars, like when you're shoving into tracks. You're walking up with your back towards your movement. Yep. A lot of people don't believe that cars are pretty quiet.
Yeah, they are.
And, when they come by you, you're just like, I've been spooked sometimes, and I'm guilty of it. Late at night, you don't want to walk next to the weeds and the trees. You want to be in that safe spot right there on the ballast.
On the ties
and,
sometimes.
Yeah, and you got like this, and you barely hear it come, and I mean, it just barely brushes you, and you just like, I see a lot of that. That's the main thing. Or one time we were shoving some cars down there in Texas, and had an engineer at the time shoving through a steel span bridge. And it was late at night. Everybody was tired, and I was like, hey, why don't you go ahead and start slowing it down? He was a stutter guy. He was skinny. And he just racked him back and kept shoving. That's a near miss. But I knew there was plenty of room, but at night, it looks like this.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's the main thing. It's just like I see a lot of people shoving in cars and in tracks, and, and they got a line of cars right here. And, I mean, it's close. And then to the point that they got to scoot on the inside part. And then they can get back out on the outside and shove in.
I think a big thing for me, especially now, because we've changed. I mean, we still do, the Navy and the military stuff and then their rail movement. And we still do some railroads. Right? We just left a railroad up in Wyoming. But our focus, has shifted over to the transload side. And that is the most dangerous side to me. I think that's the new face of railroading is going into transload. That's why all the railroads are trying to buy up all this property, right? And then re-rent it out. But then they just get all these contractors or subcontractors in, and they're like, here, just unload the product. And these people are, they find the cheapest labor they can get, and they don't have ownership of the program. And with that comes sharing of equipment. And some of that equipment are radios. And what bothers me is when I'm out on the site and I'm watching maybe a switcher engine like SW 1500 or 1200 or something, and they're sharing the same radio channel as the forklifts, as the guys in the warehouse, and they're trying to your point, somebody's trying to control a shove, or to the best of their knowledge, they're trying to bring the car, they don't use the proper verbiage or whatever. They're just like, hey, bring it to me, come here. And somebody starts talking on the radio at the warehouse about lunch. And it's like, okay, do you not understand that if you're walking all over the channel, this dude's not going to stop the train in time?
Yeah.
And I think just being cognizant is a huge aspect of, safety, right? And that's one of the things that we teach is, for instance, I know I've done it, and I've heard you say this too, is like once they're down to like 2 cars or 1 car, 1.5 car, just hold down the PTT button, keep it keyed up so no one can walk over you. Because the moment you let it go, one, it takes an extra second and a half to relay that, and then And the second part is someone is going to step on your command movements.
Or the things of, these engineers and all that, they won't stop, when you got to stop. Like if somebody gives you 10 cars, if you hadn't heard from them in 5, it's like these guys just want to keep on shoving. Next thing you know, you look out your window and you see your conductor laying on the ground because you just cut them in 2.
Yeah.
And it just, there are some that actually do take it serious.
Yeah.
But then there's a lot that just, the whole thought of getting up there and running an engine, they think it's cool and this, that, and the other. They get to do this, but they don't take in the big picture of there's a lot more responsibilities than just running that engine and looking cool and waving at kids and tooting your horn. So
I think starting off, the biggest thing that comes to my mind is probably going to be the issues that were faced out in California. There was a lot of train robberies that still happened, even though it was like not necessarily the 1800s and the old Wild West, right? But there's still robberies that happen out there. And intermodal freight is by far the easiest one to target, right? It's not always like the Breaking Bad series where they're trying to get diesel out of the rail car real quick. It's not like the movies. It's not that glamorous. What it is, it's these big intermodal trains that are just being parked, and people, they jump in there, bolt cutters, they cut open these Connex doors and they steal the TVs, they steal the goods, they steal whatever it is that big box company is shipping, right? So how do they know when and where to break into the train? Well, a lot of the times the train, they know where the train is going to be parked. And that's based off of the length of the train, right? These criminals are smart. They're pretty smart, a lot smarter than what we give them credit for. Some of these people can get hundreds of thousands of dollars in products. So it's worth it for them to sit there and time out the trains. How long does the train sit in a siding? How long does the train sit in an exposed area, right? What type of train is going to be coming through there? So they might know if it's a 8,000 foot train and it's going to sit in the siding for X amount of time, they've got maybe 30 minutes to get in and get out. So a lot of it has to do with, not just dispatchers' responsibilities, but also, train coordination, right? It's like, okay, if you're going to send this train out, maybe do it on a different schedule than what it usually does. It doesn't need to depart the same terminal at the same time and be predictable, right? A lot of security, even with your own personal security, is about changing up your routes, right? And it's about knowing what's a shady area. How long do you want to stay in that shady area? And this is something that a lot of people are starting to turn towards investing more time in, is researching security aspects. We'll talk later on in the show about how it ties in, like I said, the CFR part, specifically more or less to hazmat, but overall security in general of not just the goods, but also the people that are moving the goods, right? A prime example to change up pace is to go away from California and now travel with me to Louisiana, where I've had experience personally in moving freight through there. And the criminals, maybe they're after just the person. Maybe they're after the chase, not so much the product. But they might bust the air on the train, and suddenly the conductor has to walk back there. And maybe he's walking a half a mile or a mile, 2 a.m. in the morning. People get robbed out there. They get mugged. And they'll do it for whatever reasons, right? Maybe it's so that a larger group can steal from the train. And now suddenly you've had somebody assaulted out there. So, being cognizant is a huge aspect of this. And I think the security training, I don't think it does enough justice as far as the training goes with conductors, engineers, switchmen, guys on the ground. Typically, people overlook that in this industry. I feel like, when we do the in-depth security training for hazmat, of course, that's required by law. That's really the first and only time a lot of people understand how security relates to them in the bigger picture of things, right? And I mean them as conductors and engineers and switchmen, groundsmen, whatever. Because when you think about it, there are certain rules that maybe the G Corps or the NORAC has. It says, no firearms out onto the railroad premises. Maybe you can't have a knife with the blade longer than 3 inches. A lot of us railroaders, some of us daily carry, and that's frowned upon and not accepted at our place of work. And it doesn't just give us security, but maybe it might deter somebody else from trying to hurt us or take the cargo, whatever the situation is going to be. I feel like there should be more emphasis on security at the ground level for the rail operators and not just as a business, right? Because you can write all these SOPs, you can have all of these procedures for and reasons for why you should have a security program in place, but what does that actually mean, and how does that translate, into the daily grind of railroading? So I want to talk about, not just what we've been doing, but kind of the direction that the company is going as a whole. Tina, what is it that you've seen? Because I try to scale aggressively with us, but we can see the people in office and the impact that they're about to make, and I like that. But how do you feel about the direction of the company, honestly?
Well, seeing that when I started, we had 3 people in office, basically sharing one 4x4. Not really, but it was small. I really like the direction that we're going. It pushes my boundaries because I like safe. I like predictable. I'm accounting. That is our comfort spot. And you push those boundaries every single day.
I love it.
And sometimes when I'm in the shower and I'm washing my hair, I think about something and I'm like, I get real mad. And then I forget that I washed my hair. So I wash my hair twice. And then I'm running out of shampoo. I feel like, anyways.
I'm sorry I caused that stress, but I'm not really sorry that I caused that stress. But I agree. The rebranding, from RSC.
I'm sorry. So I'm 43. I just turned 43. I had a baby in my early 40s, or when I turned 40, basically. And now I get hot flashes when I get irritated.
Sorry.
It's okay. Just if you're going to throw the fan.
It was pretty dramatic. I hope the camera caught the sound on how dramatic it was for all of us. I had to try and zoom right past it as if I wasn't offended by her dropping of the fan.
At least she dropped it and didn't throw it at you.
She dead ass looked me in the face and flipped it out.
Well, yeah.
I did not mean to offend you. Anyways,
no, you didn't.
To go back to it, I think we are going to do great things. We're doing great things. Yeah. And our private meetings that I've had with you, you have such big plans. And yes, it's my job to rein you in, but I've also learned you're a very different boss than I've ever had before. All my other companies I worked with, all they care about the bottom line. They want to see how much money they can keep versus spending out. But in our meetings and talking with you and learning about what your expectations are for the company, I see us like sky's the limit. When I talk to my husband, I'm just like, we're doing all these things. He wants to do this. He wants to do that. Of course, I kind of complain a little bit, but like it's really, what's the word? Impressive.
Thank you. Whoa.
See, 2 for 1 today.
Damn, boom, boom. Crushing it this morning. Thanks, Tina.
We also have our accounting meeting after our.
Oh, that's what it is. She's buttering me up. I got it. Yeah, no, I think, starting as RSC, we expanded way quick, and it was fun to play that game. And we had the financial backing to carry us for a while and even through COVID. And then we got crushed. And starting it up again as Axiom through the rebrand, it was like, I'm going to do it different this time. It's not going to be any investments. It's not going to be any debt attached to us. Like we're going to do this organically, holistically, and started with Jess, and it's like, let's really breathe life into this thing and let's have fun with it. That was the goal, and I think we've done a great job in scaling. I think our customers see how much passion we have, and the synergy that we produce as a team really carries over to the customer side, so they feel it too. I'd love to kind of steer it back a little bit towards, the importance of the rail scales themselves and how that impacts safety if they're improperly loaded, right? There's springs and there's AAR specs that show like the rail car can't exceed this certain weight. Is there something like that for the trucks too? I'm sure there's a DOT scale for truckers.
Yeah. DOT's 80,000. Yeah, and I mean it's a huge role, right? Especially when you have cars that aren't, typical commodity weighted cars, right? Where they know that, hey, we're going to be close to 280 or so, right? Scrappers are notorious, right? Scrap yards are notorious for having having rail inside their yard,
Yes.
but then also overloading them. Same with grain. But yeah, it's a huge safety because every single tie plate, every single aspect of 1 foot of rail, you're jeopardizing all of that with an overloaded car.
Yeah.
And how it used to be is long time ago, all the class ones, they kind of, in the short lines, they would each kind of have their own scales, and they would go and test their scales themselves. Like UP and BN, they actually had their own scale cars that they would go in and to verify at the industry to make sure that they were properly correct. And they've kind of gotten away from that. There's still a couple, NS and CSX, they still do that, but UP, BN, they kind of stopped doing that. So
which is kind of opened the doors for businesses like ours, right, to step up to the plate and help these customers manage. Because even though the class ones or whoever are kind of stepping away from it, right, they're saying, hey, it's not worth it to have the manpower. Their whole thing is like reducing workforce, right, and automating as much as possible. Like, okay, that's your business model, but that doesn't mean the compliance stops there just because your interest stops, right? And you still have to have somebody help these customers out. And so there's a lot to know that these downstream customers just getting into the game, they don't understand that they're going to be, subject to. They don't know there's training that has to go on with that. There's oversight and compliance with these things, and check-ins. So tell me a little bit, what is it that, the role that you play in it? What's the day-to-day look like for you and WT and the impact that it has with some of its customers?
Yeah. So, well, just real quick, just about the safety, and this was on a truck scale. So typically truck scales are set up 120,000 pounds, right? And then the little readout that says what the weight is, usually it's at 2% above that. It will dash out, right? So I had a call from a customer that both of their truck scales, they would read up into a certain point and then it would just dash out. And I'm like, okay, well, let's see. And I put it on a simulator and everything's working the way it should be. And then I finally asked them, now keep in mind, legal load for a non-permitted semi-truck is 80,000 pounds. And this was at a grain operation. And it was about 122,000 pounds that they were loading these trucks to, that's when it was cutting off. So they were loading it even higher than 122,000 pounds. So, think about that. Just as you see a train passing by, think of like a semi truck that's right next to you that could be 40,000 pounds, 45,000 pounds overweight. I mean, that could create a serious risk for stopping, for turning, for anything. The center of gravity of that trailer and that truck was not meant for that.
I think for myself, sorry, Joe, to throw you under the bus, but when you forget everything, and
that is a big one.
It turns me into a smart. And I'm like, well, I mentioned that 2 weeks ago. How could you forget?
My memory has gotten so bad.
It really is.
And
bad.
it just keeps going downhill. My
I need
ultimate
to
goal is to
not
forget everything.
hold it against you at all. So
Yeah.
I'll work on that.
I think that has to do more or less with roadside bombs from Iraq and grenades outside the truck. I think that's kind of along those lines.
That's why I will not hold it against you.
Yeah, brain damage is a thing, but
that's what I say. I would say the war weathered him.
The war weathered me. Yeah. I think I completely agree with you. I forget stuff at home all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Jordan, she's always like, oh my God, I just told you this. It's like, that's news to me.
Ethan does the same exact thing.
Yeah. All right, Tom, what about you?
Yeah, no, it's kind of a mixture of all of it together, honestly. Like interruptions, which I unfortunately have a very bad habit of doing without realizing that I'm doing it. And then I instantly remember, oh, you know what? I just interrupted you. I am so sorry. That's insanely rude of me. So at least I will apologize, which is good. But, I tend to be bad at that at times, but also forgetfulness of things. It's like, hey, I'm trying to organize myself out as much as I can. Please do the same.
Yeah.
So
it happens.
I would say that's like my two biggest ones, but there isn't many, at least I've got here per se. but I'm curious to know what is
what's this next question?
Yeah. What's the most
We were
used
kind of joking about this yesterday. It
Oh
was
my
like
God,
a
yes.
real question.
I have great options.
Wait,
Yeah,
what is
like-
the next question?
What's the most used phrase that Joe says in the office?
Oh,
Yeah, what?
Okay, he goes, well, I'll let you do one. What are you going to say?
So mine is not really a phrase. I think you know where I'm going with this. It's not really a phrase, but it's a sound. For those who don't know, because I, edit the podcast, of course. Joe has there you go.
Cough drops.
Joe has a very bad habit of clearing his throat during the podcast.
Right into the microphone.
Yes. So I would
haven't
say.
even noticed you doing that.
Oh, I notice every single time.
He just said he was going to make like a
I started
montage of me
telling
doing
him
it.
every time he does it, and he was like, what? And I was like, do you not hear yourself?
I really don't.
He
Yeah.
doesn't know that he
That's
does it.
hilarious.
No, it's bad, and I'll try to remove him. Sometimes I'll leave it because there's only so much I can do. But I
can't work miracles here.
I do a lot of removing of just. and I'm sitting here. I'm like, you've got a drink right next
That's
to you,
so
and
funny.
cough drops that we've specifically bought.
Water,
It's
coffee.
exactly the same every single time, too. It's like not like you're clearing your throat differently. It's the exact same.
Oh, it drives me
That's
nuts.
so
My dad
funny.
used to do that.
Yeah.
And it was, I would always think like, what the hell's wrong with you? But he would tell a story, clear his throat and forget where he was going with the story. Like he would just stop mid sentence and it would be something, I got cut off in traffic and this asshole was coming around the corner. And then
love
what?
that.
What happened?
I wish you
He's
could
like, what are you
tell
talking
me. I
about?
would laugh. I would
It's
laugh.
worrying me. I'm getting there now. Okay, so mine is a sound thing.
Yours is a sound. You're welcome.
That's funny.
Okay.
Okay.
Harlee, what is a phrase that apparently I say a lot? One of my pull string.
One, it's not like a word, but you'll go,
Oh, you do that a lot.
exactly.
Okay,
exactly.
I got you.
That and if I hear KPIs or SOPs, I will be falling
Oh my God,
asleep
that's so funny.
and I'll just hear, can you make an SOP? And I'll just be wide awake again.
There has to be
Like, we're not-
structure. What is an organization without structure?
I've probably made, I don't know, 1 million SOPs since I
That's so
started working
funny.
here.
Okay. All right, Vegas.
Okay, so I have some. Well, actually, I think I have two. So one thing that Joe says is he'll say what you just said. You're like, all right. Or you're like, all right.
That's
And
another one that,
another
I
one that he
wrote down
says
with
is he goes,
sarcasm.
he goes, damn.
That's
You
so
do
good.
say that. I
That is
forgot.
so good. You do that. I didn't even think of that
Oh my
one.
God, that's hysterical.
And another sound that I'm going to give him that isn't really a sound that he makes, but I've come to realize that every single time he thinks I'm stalking him and I'm not. But I can hear the sound of him getting granola bars out of the snack room, and so he goes in there, and I hear, and I'm like, "Get out of the snack!"
Yeah,
You're scaring him out
we gotta
of
move
there.
your
I'm
office
like-
because
I'm
you
like, that's the
directly
second one
look
today.
straight- Yeah, I know. Yeah.
And then he was like, "Yeah, I've recently been liking the peanut butter ones." I said, "Is that the orange one?" You were like, "Stop, stop."
Let the man eat.
Thank
I
you.
have this walk
So
now too.
good.
I hope all of y'all see the abuse that I take. When I keep saying the word audit, a lot of companies they get nervous. They think, oh my God, this is like a tax audit or this is like some kind of in-depth audit. And it's like, well, yes, it is in-depth, but it doesn't require a whole lot on your part. Maybe just answering some questions because we're out here all the time and we can see within the first hour or so kind of where you're at roughly. Most of the time we do this over the phone. Our sales team talks to you. You talk to me. You talk to our director of operations. You talk to any safety guy. Like we can figure this out right away over the phone. And if it's worth coming on site, if you're squared away or not, based off of some of the language that we're talking about. And it's when we come out there, it doesn't have to be such a heavy feeling. Our audits, you can consider them more or less a gap analysis, right? And that's a lot easier to digest for some of these companies. Some people want to get into the weeds. Some people, like the ownership teams, just want to see, okay, give me like a grade. Where am I at on a scale of 0 to 100, right? And we, of course, include that in the reports as well, along with pictures. But when we go out there, while we do get in depth and the report can be very in depth, we also have, the first few pages where it just says at high level stuff, this is what's wrong, this was the findings, and this needs to be what's corrected. And one of the things that I love about our audits is that we don't just say, here's how messed up your site is. We also give you actionable growth plans to follow to get to compliance, right? So whether we're the ones who are helping you or not, at least we've pointed you and steered you in the right direction. And, when people call us and ask for things, it's not like we're a law firm where we charge you for every email, or we do these crazy, ridiculous consultation agreements. Like, that's not our moneymaker, right? Our moneymaker is longevity with the customer and serious growth. We're not there to pat you on the back and tell you that everything looks great, right? We're there to tell you what's wrong with the situation, and we're there to fix it the right way. And so that's something like we're all super passionate about. And I love going out there and I love finding what's wrong and doing a root cause analysis, because more than finding what's wrong, I love to watch the growth happen. And so does every member that goes out there and that does an audit on behalf of Axiom. Like, we genuinely love to see our customers succeed. And it's like watching your children grow up. It's like, man, I raised them right, kind of thing. It's a good feeling. You know, everyone wants to see their work, see their mark left. And it's like, why should we withhold that information? We should be able to impart that wisdom as frequently and as, you know, expansively as possible. So that's what we're going to talk about. But let's assume we sign the non-disclosure. We get on site with the customer. What are we looking at? Okay, well, we sit down with the customer and sometimes their leadership team or maybe their safety team, and we sit at a conference table or in a huddle room, and we have a bunch of questions that we go down and ask. And we've streamlined it into a really good app where it's yes or no. And if you hit yes or you hit no, it'll hit a drop down button and it'll ask further questions, because it's never just surface level. Everything we do is in the weeds, and that's where we live, right? Some people want that, well, a consultant shouldn't say things are at risk. And it's like, no, we do. We'll tell you. Right? Because we're doing a disservice to the guys that are working at your job, and we're doing a disservice to you by being out there and blowing smoke up your butt. We need you to know what it is that we're seeing. So we get really into the weeds. And I'll give you some examples of that. So let's say it's a transload site. Maybe they have 10 tracks and they've got a track mobile or a rail car mover of some sort, and they have a short line or a class 1 or somebody spotting and pulling cars for them all the time. So they're an active rail site and they're part of the general system. We can reasonably determine that they're part of the general system. Now, we can't make that 209 assessment, which says you are part of the general system. And likewise, you guys don't get to claim we are not part of the general system, right? Only FRA can make that determination. But we can tell you based off of our experience, right? Hey, you guys are for sure part of the general system. So in this scenario, this customer would be part of the general system. We're going to sit down and tell them, here's what you're subject to. Here's all the CFR parts. And that's how our audit goes from part 209 or 171 really, or even 131. And, you know, if you have if you're an oil facility or something and you have above ground oil storages and you got spill plans that you're required, we start from there and we work all the way down to the 243. Okay. And every one of those CFR parts is covered in depth and we go over that. Maybe they have a locomotive, maybe they don't, but we get there. You and your family very clearly had a strong railroading background, and you and your son have gone from the ground into management. What are some of the things that you are trying to drive that you think maybe that gap was different, being a switchman and hearing about safety and training and oversight versus now being in a management role where you're trying to drive that yourself? What's some of that disconnect you think you found?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think no situation is the same.
Yeah.
Right? Obviously, people are individuals. So what makes me tick doesn't make necessarily you tick. It's the same thing when you talk about discretionary effort, right? Mm-hmm. Why are you here at the job today? Well, maybe it's because I've got a nagging wife or spouse at home and I just want to get away for 10 hours. Maybe I like the physical activities, right? I don't like going to the gym, but I like to get out and walk the lead, and this is my gym, right? I don't prefer to be in an office. I like to be outside, right? Or, hey, the kids are in college. I got a house to pay. I drive a brand new pickup, right? I need the money, right? So everybody's reason why they're at work is different. The reason why they're going to give you that discretionary effort's different. It's the same thing I think that you can tie to safety, right? That what makes it click for them. I had the distinct privilege of opening CPKC's facility down in Dallas, Texas on their automotive facility. And I loved where they have kind of changed things up down there. So it's trying to make safety personal.
Yeah.
Why do you want to work safe today? Right?
Yeah.
I want to go home and see my family. Right? Or I want to be able to see retirement and I want to be able to enjoy the fruits of my labor. I want to travel later in life. So it's trying to make sure that everybody understands why they want to go home safe, right? Make it personal. I think sometimes we overcomplicate things. Mm-hmm. As humans, it's just our human nature. Some of the things I always try to to share with my team. Even though I'm in the management side and I'm in sales now, I still have the auto ramp on our railroad. So I have guys that do the pre-trip for us. So I have a team still out there. You got to be, at the end of the day, you can do everything straight by the book and follow the rules to a T. Just because you do that, someone else can set you up that ends up making you have a life-altering event.
Yeah.
So being able to translate and help people understand that, again, I don't like being punitive about things.
Yeah.
I'm more now, and maybe it's just because I'm older, towards the twilight of my career, I'm more to the point where I want to mentor and I want to coach people to help them see the consequences of their actions. I had a lot of people invest in me as a young kid in this industry.
Yeah.
A lot of great mentors, and both on the ground and in the management side of it. And it's time for me to pay that forward. But, I think that sometimes that disconnect is, we get so caught up and I've got this to do, this to do, this to do. There are people that have to go home that you're responsible for at the end of the day. So I think in this industry, whether you're sitting in as a individual in sales or you're sitting in as maybe the AR person, right, that comes into an office, well, still I think there has to be a sense that is into us, so we have to get into that sense of safety culture where people are looking out after each other, because we just can't be out there as managers 24/7. But if I'm the AR clerk or I'm the, dispatcher or whatever, and I'm walking to my car or I'm at a crossing, one of my railroad crossings, and I see something, do something safe, we need to get to the point where it's a speak up culture.
Yeah.
Right? Again, we're not going to change anything by you've got to do this, you've got to do that. We want to be able to have individuals looking out for individuals themselves. What I've always tried to ask the same question of my people is, when you lay your head down tonight, and before you do that, and you look yourself in the mirror, whether you're brushing your hair, brushing your teeth before you go to bed, can you clearly in your mind feel that you've done everything in your capability to ensure that those individuals are going to get home safe?
Yeah.
Right?
That's awesome.
Did I see someone not wear their safety glasses and I didn't say something?
Yeah.
Because I didn't feel comfortable. It's not a comfort thing, right? If I go to bed and I didn't say something and I end up coming to work the other day and Joe Smith ended up taking a rock to the eye and now he's lost his right eye.
Yeah.
Could have that been preventable because I said something 8 days ago about, hey, you need to wear your safety glasses out here. I know you're only walking 2 minutes out here, but you still should have it on.
Yeah.
And I didn't have that speak up culture. I didn't care enough whether I liked that individual or not, but I didn't care so much about that individual that I wanted him to be able to go home the same way that they came to work.
Yeah.
That's where I think sometimes the disconnect is that we get so caught up, right? Oh, someone else will catch it, right? Or, it's just real quick, right? It's a slippery slope, right? Today it's the safety glasses. Tomorrow it's the safety vest.
Yeah.
The day a week later, it's not getting off with 3 points of contact, right? It's those things. So I think there has to be a sense of ownership, one thing, whether I like that individual or not, I got to have that sense and that urgency to speak up, because it could end up by me not saying something, tragic can happen. And I don't want to live with that on my conscience.
If you liked this episode, please consider giving us a 5-star rating and leave a review on what you thought about it. It goes a long way. Make sure to click that notification bell so you're always up to date whenever we release a new episode. For those watching on YouTube, make sure to like, subscribe, and share this episode with people who you feel would benefit from this show. Until next time, we'll see you soon on The Switchpoint.
The views, opinions, and positions expressed by hosts, guests, contributors, and commenters on this podcast are solely their own and do not necessarily reflect the views, opinions, or positions of Axiom Rail Services or any employee, affiliate, or organization associated with Axiom Rail Services. The appearance of guests, the publication of contributed content, or the discussion of any products, services, or viewpoints does not constitute an endorsement by Axiom Rail Services. Opinions expressed belong to the individuals speaking.